So I just want to go through a few kind of housekeeping things before we get started, just to kind of check in. And I know there may be some new people that are unfamiliar with this yoga or my style of teaching. So the very first and the most important thing is that there's no way that we can really go deeply and work with pain and discomfort in the body unless we feel safe. So because we don't have the personal presence, if at any time you don't feel safe or you begin to struggle, you become overly distracted, always best just to come out of the posture you're in and just rest and listen to your body. And your body may say to continue to rest until the next posture, or it may invite you to come in and modify it a bit. So working with pain can be, it can be tricky, but it's also very personal to you. So don't overdo it. Don't feel like you have to struggle to get the benefit. So make it very intuitive. And then I'm going to open it back up after class so we can talk. And if you have questions, or you can always contact me. So that's the most important thing. And even if it's not a struggle or you're feeling unsafe or injurious, if you just need to come out and let your body breathe and regroup, this is how the body recalibrates. This practice is based on compressing and releasing and compressing and releasing. And this is unique to you. So we want to first and foremost honor that. The second thing is the use of the props. As you can see over here, I've got it's just a series of pillows. I have some towels, some blankets over here, just as many as I could gather. And then the two primary bolsters that we use are the smaller one and the larger one. So if you have these bolsters, I'll reference these bolsters, but then I'll also show an alternative to using the pillows and the blankets and the towel. So once we get them set just right, it almost doesn't matter. But along with that, I just wanted to let everyone know, first of all, many, many thanks for the donations. I'm trying to impress upon everyone that there's no suggested donation for this class. I want it to be free and available to everyone. But if you happen to be inclined to make a donation, we have a link on the website, and we're using the donations to provide bolsters for people that might not currently be wanting to buy them, prioritizing their finances. So that's one thing. We're using the donations. I already sent some out, which is nice. And also on the website, if you want to purchase some of these bolsters, there's a link to Ray's Warehouse and a discount code to get a percentage off and free shipping. So yeah, these are just nice to have. And again, thank you so much for the donations that have come in. You've all been very generous. The suggestion also is possibly to make sure the power cord is into your computer, because the class can go on seemingly forever. So you don't want to run out of power. And I'm going to leave the ending of class a little loose, because I usually don't take this much time to have to explain these, technological things and these check-ins. So if at any time you feel you've had enough, please just check out whenever you would like to. If I go a little over and a little early, we're just going to keep it fluid. And then at the end, I will unmute everyone, and you have the space bar if we want to check in or have questions or anything like that. And also the feedback, I'm asking people for feedback, because this is really, really new to me, this technology. There's a part of me that doesn't really even think you're there, that I'm talking to myself. And I have understood that when people work from home, they can wear their pajamas, right? That's what I hear. But just to be clear, these are not pajamas. These are very fancy yoga pants. So I may wear my pajamas at some point. You probably won't be able to tell the difference. But the feedback has been incredibly valuable to me. I don't need to necessarily hear great class, that kind of thing. I know the yoga is good, but the feedback has been from all different perspectives, and I'm really learning from it in case we have to keep this going for some time. So good. So with all of that being said, just make yourself comfortable, and we'll open the practice formally. So whether you sit up or lie down, main thing is to be comfortable. We'll take some time to begin to settle into our quietness, our calm in this storm, and and find our breath. So on Sunday, I decided to open our class with some song lyrics and then a sutra from the Wei Wu Wei Jing. And it was very satisfying. So I decided to do the same. I'm just going to open with a brief passage from one of my favorite songs. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. And may you stay forever young. From the Wei Wu Wei Jing, the cauldron. What is the good in clinging to slogans, quotations, and formulas? This is passing around stale bread. Just shut the language door, open your awareness, and don't look back. Another meditation of yoga. Good. So let us begin coming into a relaxing position. We're going to breathe a bit. So what I would like you to do, three different things. I'd like you to take a blanket or a towel and just fold it to just a very thin width. I'm having it about here, just for some padding of your pelvic area. You could have it a little bit more. I just don't want to create any compression at all yet into the pelvic lumbar area. So whatever feels very supportive and relaxing. And then something, I could use this small bolster on this end for my feet. I just want to elevate the feet just a bit, just to get the femurs out of the hips a bit. And you could also just use a towel. So just something to get a little bit of height for the legs. And then for the neck, I'm taking another blanket. And again, you could use a towel and just making just a bit of a roll. So I haven't made a big roll. I'm going to place this in the back of the neck. Yeah, so not the back of the head. We want to support the natural curve of the cervical spine. And then the setup will be very easy. What we'll simply do is place the pelvic area, not the lumbar area, the pelvic area. So right, that tailbone, you find that tailbone and you come up a little bit and there's your sacrum. And we'll allow the pelvic area to rest on this pad that you've made. We'll extend the legs out so the knees are straight. And just so the two leg bones, the femurs, are just a little bit softened out of the hips. And then you'll take your roll and just place it under the neck. So the way to know you have this proper is if the chin is a little bit elevated above the forehead. If the chin is tucking down, not good. That's contrary to the curve of the cervical spine. So we want the cervical spine supported, so chin elevated a bit, feeling very restful there. Good. Make any adjustments that you need. This is mostly just to support the body so you can slip into the response of relaxation and restfulness and softening. So many different ways, obviously, that we can approach our breathing. Yoga has an entire limb devoted to pranayama, to techniques and breath work, to stimulate just a whole range of mind, body, and emotional states. But from the perspective of yin, we're really trying to just become more conscious of, more present, that we are breathing. So we're not interested in a technique here. We're not interested in counting breaths, deepening breaths. We're simply going to begin by just feeling the presence of the breath entering your body, nice and slowly, what it feels like, if there's any residual emotional content, how the mind might be reacting, and how you're slowing down the breath, slowing down then ultimately the pulsation of the heart, and then slowing down the brain waves as well. So it's a slow inhale, a lingering at the end of the inhale, if you will, and a slow, long exhalation. So we're feeling the presence of the exhalation in a state of equanimity with the inhalation. So they feel nice and equal. The breath feels coordinated. And the only thing I would like to bring your attention to is to just become entirely and wholly absorbed in the breath. And notice I'm not saying to absorb the breath into the body. That's happening naturally. I'm saying you absorb fully, wholly into the breath. Without thought, we don't need anything to think about, without mind, even without any sense of self-image or sense of self. So what's left when we start to allow these other thought and mind and self and emotional body to just drift a bit, to lessen their presence, what really we're left with is just a sense of freedom. So from this sense of freedom and this sense of expansiveness, just become wholly absorbed in the breath. And also just in the background, this awareness that this is the most nuanced thing that you can possibly do. And this is what ultimately we start to weave into a yoga asana, the way that we explore the container of the body and the mind, is we make contact with the nuance of the breathing. Again, the presence of the breath. So just feel that, just allow that to be sort of a background echo as you're allowing yourself to become absorbed in the breath. How incredibly nuanced this is. You're feeling things in the inhalation, experiencing things in the lingering, and experience things in the exhalation. And let me just say this again, because this is a foundational exploration of yoga. And this is what we're exploring. I'm not asking you to believe this or, take this on any kind of faith. Yoga is always experiential. But what I'm suggesting is when we allow a certain dissolution of thought and mind and feeling and self, that what's left is freedom. And so this sense of dissolution, this sense of absorption into the breath, and it's just a way that we cultivate letting go. We cultivate a sense of expansiveness and connection ultimately with this open-ended pure awareness, the pure awareness that's not superimposed with thought and self-image and all of the other clutter, obviously, that we carry around being a limited self. Good. So wherever you happen to be in this absorption into the breath, we can just let that fade a bit and just deepen the breath a bit. Take a little bit deeper inhale till you come to just a bit of an edge of discomfort. You'll feel it. It's very interesting. And then linger for a few heartbeats and linger again till it's a bit uncomfortable. And then let the exhale be a lot longer than you even think you can. And again, at the end of the exhale, just feel the sort of the unfamiliarness of that. So we want to lengthen now, deepen now, and feel like there's a balance between the inhale and the exhale. And what's nice to know, really, the yin is always trying to educate us about the exhalation. This is the yin breath, the out breath, the letting go breath, is that the exhalation is really making room to take in more air, to have more capacity. And so this will start to change the physicality, your moods, your energy levels. So we're always exploring the breath. Good. So let's, I was going to say, let's stop breathing, but no, keep breathing. Let's not stop breathing. Let's keep breathing, but let's start to come out of the bolstering. So you can just take the roll out from under your neck. And you know what, you can just leave where you are with the blanket under the pelvis and just roll over onto your side and bring your knees up. Just come into a fetal position for a moment. And the other thing that I want to mention, along with your own personal safety and really monitoring how you lean into this discomfort, these places where your body's holding tension and contraction. Uh, the same thing with anything that I'm saying. The vastness of yoga is not really meant to be dogmatic. It's very generic. It's really, yoga is really just a way to hold space for ourselves in order to explore ourselves. So things that I'm saying are really not so important. What's really important is that you slowly just bring your energy inward, that you slowly are able to relax into the joints and the muscles and be in a position with the discomfort that you can actually explore it. And whether that's emotional, psychological, or physical discomfort, this is always an exploration on your experience in this very moment. Yeah. So let's come on up then, please. And so what I'm going to do, because I know that some of you do have the bolsters, I'm going to start by demonstrating with the bolsters, the traditional bolsters, and then I'll show some variations in case you're using pillows, towels, or blankets. Yeah. And also mindful that we want to set up each asana so we can hold it for a long period of time. So if you set something up and you come in too deep too quickly, you're going to bypass the threads of tension that your body's feeling, and you won't be able to explore them. You'll just be sort of hoping it's over. So anytime you find that coming up, when is this going to be over? I wish it was over. I wish it wasn't happening. Just back off a little bit, withdraw, breathe, relax, and then have the depth appropriate to you. Yeah. So big bolster if you have it, or I'll show some modifications. And we're going to take the left leg and bring it in. Yeah, that's the left leg. And we're going to put the bolster in front of that leg, or some pillows and towels in a moment. And then we're going to take the right leg and put it on top of this bolster. So just so you know, this is not necessarily a supported position, because we're not willing or able to do the more traditional square pose. This is intentional to elevate the femur up out of the hip. This will stimulate the piriformis right up through the IT band into the knee. So especially cautious going into this, because we have some unfamiliar territory from knee, IT band, piriformis, and just the way it's going to tweak the hip a bit. So most important here to begin is not to lengthen into this forward bend. We don't want to activate the lower back muscles. We want to relax them. So the softening of the lumbar, most important, and then connecting the weight of the skull to feel the forward bend in the upper spine. So it's a relaxing into this forward bend. It's not a pushing, pressing, or lengthening. So lower belly can soften, lower back can soften. And then if you do not have the bolster, I would flip through my pillows here, and I'd probably get a pillow like this, and I'd probably get a towel like this. So what I've done, simply just recreated the height of that bolster, making way for some of the softness of it. So the same thing, I would take the left leg and bend it in, have my bolster in front of the left leg, and then I would take the right leg and put it up on top of it. Just make sure it's stable. Don't worry so much about the angles. They'll reveal themselves once you're in the pose. And the same thing, we're not going to lengthen, we're not stretching, we're compressing all of these areas that the tension has become threaded and imprinted into. Relax the skull. Put the arms and the hands wherever they're most comfortable. We don't really need the fingers to be wiggling, and we just want the body to relax, most importantly. And let me say just a little bit about what it is that we're actually exploring. Uh, so when I say the priority is for you to feel safe, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be uncomfortable. Yeah. So not feeling safe means you start to struggle, means you're open to the possibility that maybe this would be injurious to your body. So it can be very clear. Pain is as much a warning as it is feedback. So with that being said, it's okay to be uncomfortable. And this is part of what we're exploring. We're not simply setting the body in this superficial geometry to hope something happens, to open a hip or open a knee. We're not really concerned with that. We're applying this compression to start to see the quality of the feedback that the body's giving you, that the tension, the contraction, the sort of the residue of your whole life really is embedded in this fascial system. So the feedback can sometimes it can hurt, it can be painful, it can be a bit agonizing even. So this is part of what you're exploring, is what are you doing with that feedback? Is it triggering something immediately in the mind? Is it triggering an emotional response? Are you able to sit with it? Are you able to open to its intelligence? And this is unique to you. There's no one can tell you how much is too much. So opening this spectrum, that the discomfort is informative, it's information and it's feedback, but it can also be a warning. So we always just err on the side of caution. If we have an injury, we become even more cautious. Good. So let's come on up from here. And what I'm hoping is that everyone has the right leg up elevated on the bolster or blanket pillow combination. So we'll just roll up from here. And let's put the big bolster or whatever you're using for that aside. And we're just going to take one moment here. We're going to continue this forward bend, but I would just like to give you the opportunity just to open the knees just for a moment so they can have a sense of release. And just, it's always good to let your knees know that you're looking out for them. Very, very tricky joints. Good. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go from the large bolster and the pillow blanket combination to either the small bolster or just the blanket. Yeah. So you'll see this is just about pretty much the same height once it's compressed, right? So again, the blanket pillows work just as well as these bolsters. So again, we'll take that left leg as you're sitting with both legs extended. We'll take the left leg and bend it in towards yourself. So it's about a 90-degree angle to the body. We'll take the small bolster or your blanket. I'll just do it with the blanket. And we're going to put the foot ankle onto this blanket. Now, so again, we're just elevating that right femur, just not as high as we did with the larger bolstering. And then the same thing, a nice relaxed. I like coming to the side like this because when I'm in class, I can never see myself. But this is the difference. It's the lengthening, which we would do in a yang practice to strengthen and have mobility of the muscles, but we're attempting to unengage the muscles. And once the muscles soften, this tension will then be received more by the fascia. Yeah, and it's not that black and white, but you can kind of feel that. This is not muscular. This is a deeper ligamental or fascial pulling or tightening. And then just soften in, same forward bend, just a little bit different angle. Well, and I forgot to give credit for that lovely song. May You Stay Forever Young, but who among us doesn't know that was Bob Dylan? And I would sing these songs for you, but I don't really, that's not the kind of discomfort I want to provide you with. There's enough discomfort in these poses. You don't need to hear me singing a Bob Dylan song. And always it's like a far away echo. It's like a whisper in the wind almost, this breath, yeah, that we seem to cycle into the clutter of the mind, the chatter of the mind, any feelings that want to pulse up, the the way that you're feeling physically at the level of discomfort, but the background, this echo, is our breathing. So we're exploring to just allow ourselves to be entirely absorbed in the breath. And ultimately, that's what we want, uh, this voice to be. Again, it's not instructional. There's no technique. What I say is not that important. Really, we can just take the voice to be saying, over and over, relax, soften, allow yourself to feel safe and present within your body. Allow yourself to sit consciously and listen to the intelligence of any sensations that are arising. Good. So once again, let us come on up from here. And let's open the legs out. And let's remove either the small bolster or the blanket or the towel. And just again, let's open the legs out just to let the knees have some relief. Because we're going to go back into this forward bend one more time. So this time what we're going to do is we are going to tighten it up a bit and come into more of a traditional square. So again, we'll keep the left leg coming in. So we're mostly working on the right side. And then your choices with this right leg, the right foot. First of all, if you're not able to tighten it up onto the left calf, just put the towel or blanket in front of you just to soften the ankle. So this now brings it into more equanimity, yeah? A little bit because the right side is still being elevated, but not as much. Or you can bring it up onto the left calf. So this is just a traditional square pose. If you want to deepen it, you could bring it up onto the knee. Yeah, so the knee then uh, just a different angle, really. We're always kind of playing with the angles of range of motion. You could also pull it into the left hip if you want as well. And same thing, we're just switching up angles. So when we bring the torso weight forward, that's where we're being asked to pay attention. Yeah. So thinking of this, the posture as a way to play with the angles of range of motion, and then the feedback we're getting is the invitation to explore. Yeah. So your choice, either right foot out in front, a lot of breath in the hips and the knees, the right foot onto the left calf, or the left knee, or the left hip. And then again, nice soft lower back. No need to go as deep as you think you can or should go. The depth is just relevant to your being able to relax and just sit quietly and observe. And one of the benefits of this intermingling with your breathing, this absorption into the breathing, is that we don't have to label that. We don't have to define that. So part of our exploration is, what is my experience when I'm no longer needing to label it, when I'm no longer needing to define it. And what we call this, so what we're really, I think we're just naturally moving towards that when we do yoga. Sometimes we have our struggles and our misdirections, but what we're really trying to cultivate is a deeper sense of well-being, and not a well-being that's contingent upon our labels and our definitions and all of the things that go with that, our normal way of interfacing with reality. to explore, is there, I would even say a more authentic, a deeper, an organic sense of well-being that's just not contingent upon the movements of the world, the movements of others. So this is what we do. We use the physical body, and we see that these sensations are coming and going. We use the texture of our emotions to see the same thing, that they're just coming and going. They're contracting and expanding. And obviously our thoughts are just arising, getting our attention, and then subsiding. So for well-being is contingent upon any of those things that are changing all the time. It's a little iffy at best, yes? But if our well-being is a deeper sense of well-being, a sense of well-being that is not needing to project outward to or be contingent upon, this is the equanimity, the contentment, and the peace of yoga. Good, so let's come on up from here. And I think since that was such a lengthy forward bend, let's just lie down and we'll take a little bit of a rest. We won't take a longer rest because we're going to do some psoas in between, and then we're going to explore that forward bend on the other side of it. So just lie down, make yourself comfortable, and we'll relax for a few moments. And also, earlier when I talked about being safe, I also am encouraging you to be comfortable. This is very, very different, obviously, than being in person where you might suppress an impulse. So if you need a counter move, or you want to put some music on, or whatever it is, I think more important to cultivate a sense of intimacy for yourself. That's the beautiful thing about a slow, long, deep practice, is that it doesn't have to go from beginning to end, that we can move around a bit if we're so called, or shake something out, or whatever it is, because we're really wanting to trust and let the body know that we respect it and that we're listening. So this practice is never just a physical journey. The physical is always merging into the emotional into the psychological, and there's just a lovely looping of that. Okay, so let's come on up, and I want to come into primarily this for the psoas, and I have to say, when before I started doing this, when the in-person teaching ended, I started really working psoas and pelvis quite a bit, and is opened up a mobility in upper and lower body, because the psoas is the largest muscle in the body. It begins off of the lumbar spine, and from the lumbar spine, it starts to come around down over here into the hips and attaches up into the femur. So it's connecting this upper body with the lower body. So very, very important, big muscle. When it starts to tighten, it starts to throw the whole body out of different alignments. So this might not be so comfortable, but it's a worthy endeavor. So what I've done is we're going to use a blanket or a towel. And then obviously with all of these poses, the height that you choose will determine the discomfort that you feel. So how this sensitive area feels is unique to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rectangle of a blanket, and instead of rolling it from here, which will not give me a high enough roll, I'm going to fold it over again. Yeah. So I folded it over. Well, you can see. I hope you can see. And then I'm going to roll it from here. So this is a nice tight roll. This is for me, my body, based on working on my psoas, but this is pretty substantial, yeah? And then what we're gonna try to find is so here's my navel, and then down here, where the hips are here, and here's my pubic bone, yeah? Navel, down, pubic bone, hips, yeah? So I will give you no more instruction on how to find your pubic bone. It's right about here. Okay. And those of you that don't know me, please feel free to smirk, to roll your eyes, whatever at my jokes. I realize that I should more stick with yoga than stand up, but I do try every once in a while. So anyway, pubic bone right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to come on the knees. Yes, I'm going to approach this from my knees, almost like I'm coming out of a child's pose. So I'm going to approach this, and then I'm going to place it right on that pubic bone area. Yeah, so it's not in my belly per se, it's below the navel on the pubic bone. And stay here on the forearms a bit and just maybe sway the lower back, the buttocks. Notice how this feels. So it'll intensify a bit when we bring the upper body down. Yeah, and you can always come back to this sort of default position if you need to release this. And then just allow the upper body to relax forward. You'll feel the pressure in there. If you do have to go to the bathroom, this would be the best time to go. But just lower your body down. And then sometimes I place the left ear, sometimes the right ear first, depending on where the tension is. Sometimes I go for the softer side, sometimes I go for the tighter side. More than likely they'll be different, but just let the head come down to the floor, and either left or right ear, it doesn't matter. Let the arms be just to your side, front a little bit relaxed in case you want to come back to the forearms and release a little bit of that. You can also push up onto the knees and release it. Not meant to be comfortable. So this might be a lovely position to allow the the breath to have somewhat of a flowing quality. And what I mean by that is we can direct the breath into the compression, not to necessarily manipulate it or to push it away or even disturb it, but like I was saying earlier, how nuanced the breath can be. So it's almost like the tension you're feeling here in the psoas, think of it as a fabric, and it'll have different areas of tightness where the fabric may have even come into some knots. And so the breath is to sort of open the fabric a bit, to start to invite and tease out these residues of contraction. So it's an intermingling or a merging of the breath, the fabric of the body, and just the kind of the rawness of the sensation. Good. So from here, if you haven't already, let's come on up onto the forearms. So ideally, we'll have the elbows right underneath the shoulders, and we'll just now feel this little bit of a backward bend. So your choice, you can either stay static here with the pelvic compression and the backward bend, or if you would like, what's nice sometimes is to take an inhale and bring the chin up a bit. So this will contract the lower back more, and then exhale and release out of it. So then it can release. So we're really mimicking this, this anatomical but very primal kind of contraction and expansion that's going on inside your body all the time. So if ever you come upon something that feels like, wow, that's just stuck, it's solid, it's substantial, it's not. It has this, even if it's very deep in there, it's contracting and it's expanding, it's pulsating. So sometimes we can mimic that, and that's the encouraging of the movement of the residue of the tightness or the misalignment. So the inhalation is up a bit, chin up, not forcing it, but just feeling into it. The exhalation is just coming down, relaxing. You may even sway the hips a little bit. Good. Then you can put a little bit more weight onto the forearms and start to bring the knees forward or bring the upper body back to come into a child's pose. So we're just going to use this to exit. So just coming off of that roll, hallelujah to that, yes? And we'll just kind of dip into a child's pose if you prefer. Whatever child's pose feels most comfortable. Just to transition from that. And this is then a very worthy, you can come on up now, just roll up and sit forward. But because of the size of this muscle that I was talking about, the psoas, and its layering and matrixing of fascia, yes, of tightening, because all our muscles, all our organs are encapsulated in this fascial matrix. Yeah, it's woven material, it's matrix material, it's living crystal. So to just think we can open the muscles, if we're not opening this envelope of the fascia, it doesn't really happen over time. Yeah. So what I'm saying is this is a very worthy endeavor, especially if you're doing backward bends, to give compression here in the front as well. So it's addressing not only the lumbar area where the psoas comes off of, but also the front as well. Yeah, so we start to have mobility and free up this large muscle from here to here. Yeah. Okay, so let's then get the big bolster again. So either the big bolster, or if you are using a combination of blanket and towel, I'll just use this one. So we want to approximate, what I'm doing then again is I'm approximating the height of this bolster. Now, so this time, in case you forgot, we're going to bring the right leg in. We're going to take then the bolstering, whatever you have, and put it in front of your leg, like that. And then we're going to take the left leg and put it up, just doing the other side. Yeah. And then just come forward. Do check in, though, to make sure you're not bypassing that very delicate, mobile part of the spine, the upper spine. So you can take your time here. Relax your shoulders. Let the head drop down. So that tension in the cervical spine has time to radiate, to reverberate down the spine. So when you finally come forward and come into the sacral spine, there's a connection there. Connection between upper spine and lower spine. just simply be open to learning and open to exploring. So for most of us, the thinking part of us, the intellectual part of us is dominant. It's just really how we survive and function. So when you find yourself labeling your experience, defining your experience, or just running a commentary about your experience, just try to drop it and see what the experience is without that. So it's a lovely experiment. And oftentimes it can sort of weave into this sort of non-linear, non-linguistic place. And then the cycle starts all over again. Then it will then rise up from, just pure neutral sensory experience through an emotional tone, and then into the psyche, and then it starts to coalesce back into thoughts, definitions, labels, fragmentation, let's call it. So when you find that, experiment, start to let that fragmentation go, just let it dissolve, don't force it, and then just relax back into this sense of openness. What I was saying earlier, when we start to be wholly absorbed in the breath and we're letting go of mind and thought and emotion and self-image, what we call that is freedom. So allow yourself just to relax into your own inner sense of freedom. And if you've never really considered, exploring the energy of discomfort as a feedback mechanism, as an intelligence, and even if you have, keep exploring that. Be open to exploring that. It's extremely powerful and extremely healing. So when we can back off just a bit from reacting to discomfort and needing to keep it at bay, and we start to embrace it and listen to it, this is at least at the level of the physical body, this is the awakening of the body's intelligence. To start to trust that our discomfort, whether it's collective, whether it's emotional, psychological, or physical, is not punitive, that it's just the life force's way, the fabric of life teaching us. So the yoga is saying, get comfortable with it right in your knees, right in your lower back, in your breathing, in your thinking, in your feeling. Explore that it's there for a reason. And then we get to then, the deeper we go, we get to bypass our mental memories. This is not essentially about mental memories. It's much more just about the memory of your deepest being, just the memory of your essence, the biological memory. Good. So let's come on up from this. And lo and behold, we're not going to do the other two segments of this. And I'll tell you the reason why. You can open up the legs, is because we never want to make this practice linear. Yeah. So we don't want to get into this needed to be symmetrical. So what I did on the first side of the forward bend is I kept the different stages, the high, the medium, and the low, a little shorter, but then we changed the stages. On this side, I did one stage, but we did it much longer. So just to give the body that sort of this side, that side, the way it's connected, it's not linear, it's not symmetrical inside, probably not outside either. So let's lie down now and we'll take a rest before we move on. So as you're continuing to relax here, I would like you now to just allow your awareness to be absorbed into the pulsation of your heart. So you can do this metaphorically, you can do this with a creative visualization, or through the presence of the breath, you can feel that the breath and the beating of the heart are always trying to be in sync. So you can actually feel the living matrix of liquid crystal that's surrounding the heart, and just start to get sensitive to the heart beating. So just to feel the pulsation of your heart. And one of the things that we can consider is when we do have the opportunity to face the kind of discomfort that we're all faced with right now, this collective discomfort that can feel very disorienting, that it can also create fear is just a fragment. Fear creates fragmentation. So when we can begin with the pulsation of our own heart, then we can start to open that a bit. We can start to visualize that the pulsation of my heart is the same pulsation as your heart. That all of these hearts, the hearts of our loved ones, the hearts of strangers, the hearts of everyone are pulsing. And this pulsation has the capacity to come into entrainment. This pulsation has the capacity to allow us to feel more wholeness as opposed to fragmentation. So as you're feeling the pulsation of your own heart, as you're feeling the synchronization of the calm, relaxed breath merging with the primal pulsation of your heart, just imagine, just visualize the entire world pulsating. Just imagine all of nature in its pulsation. And the cosmos as well, the birth and the death of stars, the movement of the planets. This is at a fundamental level, this is all pulsation. There's nothing that is not contracting and expanding. So we just want to remember that we have this capacity. We have the capacity to contract and fragment, and sometimes it is very necessary, but we also have the capacity to open and expand, just as necessary. This is pulsation. We don't want to feel that it's isolated just in the container of the pericardium. We don't want to feel like this pulsation is isolated to just this living crystal matrix that's holding our heart in place. We want to feel that this is the primal pulsation. So let's just begin to, you can stay lying on the floor for this. You might not have to even get up and observe me. I think it works well just if you listen to what I'm saying. So let's try that. So the first thing to remember for this next thing is we're not going to bend the knees. So if you start to bend the knees, don't. Yeah, so I will demonstrate it a bit. It's kind of hard to see myself here. Yeah, that's okay. It's good. So what I would like you to do is, without bending the knees, just by walking the heels over to the right, and just as far as your range of motion will go. You know, so I'm just walking the heels over to the right. Sort of, it's a lateral flexion of your whole spine, really. And then keep the heels where they are, no bent knees, straight legs. And without bringing the left shoulders rolling over, just bring the body in that direction as well. You just kind of have to move it over, yeah? But we want both shoulders relatively flat on the floor. So this left shoulder, we're not rolling to the right side. The body is flat. Heels over to the right, upper body over to the right. So we've created with the body a half moon shape. Then you can take the left arm and bring it over the head so it's on the floor. So we don't want it just hanging in the air. Doesn't matter how far it comes. This is just extending the length of the upper body over a bit, yeah? And then you, if you like, so let the left arm relax. And then if you would like, that's optional, is you can take the left leg and put it over the right ankle. So left over the right. Knees are not bent. Left shoulder is not rolled up. Left arm is relaxed. And so this is just a nice lateral flexion. This can often be, well, depending on where your pelvis, lumbar, psoas is, this can have a good amount of intensity, or it can be relatively relaxed. And sometimes we just can't move deeper into a lateral flexion. So it doesn't matter. I just invite you to relax. And you know what I was just saying earlier, in talking about pulsation, this is a very it's very yogic, but I consider it a very deep study, because oftentimes we're not aware of our energy at this level. You know, we're aware of our energy of like, oh, I'm angry, or oh, I'm happy, or I'm hungry, or I'm irritated. So again, the compulsive need to just label our energy without truly feeling it. So if we can start to feel, whether it's the pulsation of the heart, whether it's the way that we're breathing, the way that we're thinking, at this level that we are contracting and expanding, then we get to explore it. We get to explore, what is the nature of this contraction? Just the texture of it, the nature of it, without the superimposition of thoughts and past definitions. And then we can relax it. Then we can sort of tease it open into a more expansive place. Or conversely, if we're feeling overly expansive and not grounded and disoriented, do we need to contract a bit? Do we need to know how to just take that energy without it feeling, fearful or disorienting, and bring it back in and ground? So the exploration of contraction and expansion, of pulsation, this is fundamental to your cells, fundamental to the health of your physical body, your breathing, in your mental health as well. So you can relax that left arm, and if you do have your ankles crossed, you can uncross them. And we'll just take a moment just let the body open here. Just let the tension dissipate a bit. And then when you're ready, same thing. We're gonna just walk the heels over to the left side. Yep, just shimmy them over. Again, without bending the knees. So don't cross the ankles quite yet. We want that stability to bring the upper body in the same direction to the left. So we're just kind of shrugging it over there. And then once you're here with your at your range of motion, you can bring the right arm up over the head. And just let this be intuitive. Just don't hang it in the air. Let it relax, but you can feel it'll pull on that. It can pull on that right hip, the rib cage, etc. And then if you would like to, you can bring the right ankle over the left. So we're using that outside leg. And this has a nice pulling effect too on the psoas. I guess another way to kind of say what I was just talking about is to start to explore that the tension that you experience ultimately is energy. So this is what I'm really trying to express, that if we're continually labeling it, if we're continually defining it and diagnosing it and analyzing it and needing to fix the tension, then we never get to explore its fundamental nature, which is energy. And energy contracts and it expands. So this is what I was saying earlier, is that the tension, the discomfort is an intelligence. It's a feedback mechanism. Not the kind of feedback where we need to fix it, we need to diagnose it, the kind of feedback where we're starting to open to the energetics of the body. And I don't mean that theoretically, I mean that literally. To start to, once we let go of what we think it is, we can feel what it is, our direct experience. Unfortunately, the tricky part of this is that at the level of this energy, the sensation, it goes through the emotions and up to the intellect so quickly, it seems simultaneous. It seems like the same thing. It is not. Part of our training, part of what a yogi does is just sit with the sensation, sit with the sensation. And then it starts to merge, then it starts to transform. But then we have more input, we have more insight, we get more information. I don't know if Matt is in this class, but Matt gave me this lovely quote. It might even be his quote. I don't know. It's either him or Tesla or Einstein, but really the three of those are pretty much the same person to me. But anyway, he's got this lovely quote that says, "You matter unless you multiply yourself by the speed of light. Then you energy." So once again, let's relax that arm. Just let the arm release first. You can uncross the ankles if they're crossed and just get the body back to a neutral spine, legs straight out, and just relax here for a few moments. So let's stay on the back a little bit longer. And again, no need to really look at me unless you want to. This is pretty, just really simple, just to get a little bit of a reclining twist. So just bring the knees up to the chest, and you may want to tug them in and sway a little bit. And, just kind of feel into this. And then just keeping them up as high as you can towards the chest, keeping the left shoulder on the floor. Just let the knees relax off to the right side. Yeah, so going to the right. Doesn't matter where the arms are. Sometimes it's nice to extend the left arm out perpendicular to the body and sort of look towards that left hand, but it's completely not necessary. The head can be wherever you would like. And if the top knee wants to relax out a little bit, let it do that. The main thing with the weight to the right of the lower body is to just try to keep the left shoulder down. Don't force it, because if the left shoulder starts to come up, it just compromises the angle of the whole twist of the body. So we just kind of play with that a bit. And obviously the heart itself and the breathing are most obvious examples of pulsation, but your whole body is pulsating. Every single cell is pulsating. This is the the pranic vibration that keeps us alive. So lovely sometimes just to feel that the pulsation of the heart is entraining and synchronizing all of our functions, our processes, our organs, right down to, our cellular level. Good. So we can bring those legs now straight up. If you'd like to take another little hug, you can do that. Just kind of pull in, sway a little bit. And then the same thing on the other side. So we'll just attempt to leave the right shoulder grounded as much as possible. And just slowly, I like to try to keep the knees as close to the chest initially. So this is just a little bit more weight. And then if they want to open, more important to relax here. And one of the ways that we can really come to see the beauty, really, the beauty and the spaciousness of yoga, just yoga, not yin yoga or any styles that we might prefer, but to see that really essentially that our yoga is just what we're open to. Yeah, the yoga is not to collect more information, more knowledge. Really, the contrary. The yoga is to see that our wisdom is really lies below or above or to the side of the collection of knowledge and the collection of information. So if we're open to exploring an aspect of the physical body, then that's our yoga. If we're open to exploring a meditative quality, if we're meditating, that's our yoga. If we're cooking a meal and we're absorbed and we're present and that's our yoga. So our yoga then becomes, what are we open to exploring? And then how creatively can we hold a container to explore that? And to be open to whatever then arises, to be open to the texture, the quality of it, the nature of it. What is the nature of it? And not just assume we know what the nature is. Because most of what we assume is just simply habits. It's simply patterns. And the patterns create blind spots because we can't see beyond them. So the yoga is just to be aware. What are we open to exploring? And then the nature of that exploration is really our yoga. Whether that's physical, emotional, mental, psychological, or any aspect of the world. Good. So let's bring those knees back up, please. Let's straighten out the legs and just make yourself comfortable for a bit. We'll just take a bit of a rest since we just did that lateral flexion and that twist. Good. So let us come on up, please. And I'm going to show a couple of variations for this next thing. We're going to try to address the entire back line for the most part. So the bolster is going to be a little bit broader, but we want to be safe because the yin holds, as you probably already know, we hold them for an extended period, allowing the compression to really be absorbed into the body. So if you do have the large bolster, then we'll use the large bolster. Yeah, you can see there, with or without sitting on something. So if I, what we're going to do, if I come over this with my feet on the floor, so my lower spine stays stable and safe until I'm in it. Let's get this one too. So if I'm coming over this backward bend with my feet on the floor, checking in all the way, and then coming back, maybe it's too much. At this point, I'm like, nope, this doesn't feel safe. Then I take a towel or a blanket and I sit on it. This elevates my hips. Now it makes the backward bend more accessible. If I'm feeling a little pinch in the neck, then I take something for the head. Like, okay, good, I brought that up. So I can really sustain the backward bend. The shoulders are off the bolster, and the bolster, or whatever you're going to use, is horizontal. So horizontal means hip to hip, not sacrum to skull. Yep, that's a different thing. So this would be one variation if you have the big bolster. And if you don't have the big bolster, you soon will. Yes? Okay. So another variation would be to use a pillow and a blanket rolled up. So if I rolled this blanket all the way up, I would just know and look at this. This is way too much. Yeah, I already know what my back can handle. So this is what I'm trying to express, is you can modify the height depending on how your back's going to respond. So what I would do with this is I would go about halfway on this guy. Same thing, I would have something for my hips if I need to, something for my head if I need to, and I would place this feet on the floor. Oh yeah, this is great. This is, I can't really even tell the difference between the big bolster and this. If I need to, I'll put something under the hips. This took a good amount of the compression out. If I need to, I put something under my head. We want the legs a little bit wider than the hips, so the hips can relax, and we want the arms just wherever they're the most comfortable. And then again, please gauge so the compression is such that you can, really in a way, we want to forget about the form of the body, the form of the asana, and then just let the body organically reveal itself. So if you're at an edge where it's like, like I said, like, I wish this wasn't happening, when it will be over, it's too much. We want to have a lovely equilibrium between the compression we're receiving and allowing, and the whole system to just relax and absorb it. Of course, if you're thinking, when is this going to be over? Because when is dinner, or when is my next Zoom meeting, or when will this lockdown be over? That's a different kind of distraction. So once we set the body in its shape, then we go up to the mind and see, oh my God, what's going on up there? Why do I want this to be over? That's our yoga. So again, what you're open to is your yoga. So if you're open to your body, yeah, that's what we're exploring. Thread in, go into these pathways, create these loving pathways, these neural pathways that are just filled with loving kindness and acceptance. If the mind is busy and you've got other things and you're being drawn away, notice. And when I say notice, I just want to take that a little bit further. Really, genuinely, this is what we're observing. So if your mind is busy and you'd rather be doing this, or you're going to do that, what I'm talking about, these distractions, don't bypass that. That's a form of discomfort. That's just chatter. That's the foreground. Yeah, that's the foreground. So from the foreground, we stay fragmented. We stay pulled and pushed. And the observation of this, the clarity of the texture, the nature of a thought allows us then to relax into a place of peace, a place of vastness, a place of openness. So whatever arises, and same thing with life, the foreground of life is struggle, can be these days a struggle and strife and dismay, but that's the foreground. The relaxation into our presence, into that pulsation, into the safety of the moment, the vastness of the moment. This is the yoga. And simply, the yoga asana is for us to explore that. So it doesn't matter what's arising. Pain in the back, the heart that feels contracted and is feeling suffering and pain, or the mind that the foreground is so cluttered, we can't possibly imagine that there's something more peaceful. So let it arise, whatever arises, allow it. And then bring out your magnifying glass and explore it. This is another one of my very favorite sutras from the Wei Wu Wei Jing. It's called Innocence. A deep and sophisticated understanding of Buddhism, Taoism, Zen, Chan, philosophy, meditation technique, none of these is necessary to attain realization. They are just as likely to ensnare you in towers of complicated thought. Abide in the simple understanding that Buddha nature is always, has always been, will always be your own nature. Breathe into that. Breathe out from that. That is all. So the echo is ongoing, to be wholly absorbed in your breath. So I'd like you to just take this next suggestion very slowly, especially since I can't see anybody. No need to go quickly. So let the tension, the muscular tension, soften and dissipate. But what we're going to do here is we're going to put the feet flat on the floor. Yeah. So whatever bolstering you're using for this backward bend, I'd like you to very carefully start to just elevate the hips up. Yeah, so you're just pressing the hips up and then bring the body back. So then the pelvis is going to be, you'll feel the release. It's just incredibly lovely for the lumbar. And then we're going to transfer the bolster to just the back of the pelvis. Yeah, so no more lumbar compression here, and just let yourself find it. So right again where the tailbone, right up where the sacrum is, and then you can let the legs relax out. And then if you're not in the right place, you just make some adjustments here. So this is what it looked like. So the buttocks no longer on the floor, the buttocks up from the buttocks, the pelvic sacral area, that to be on your bolstering or your blankets, and just let the legs again open. So you're kind of pulling a little bit of the head of the femur out of the hip socket, opening that pelvic area, and we'll just relax here for a bit. And this, like I maybe you don't remember, I was saying earlier, when we had the roll in the front, where the pubic bone is, this is the companion to that. So if you want to do both of those together, we just got to it now, but this is the, just the whole, bringing attention to this area of the body. And again, just let some breath flow through that. Good. So the same thing. Let's put the feet on the floor, and then you can either bring the knees up towards the chest and just have a little motion here. So just hug them in. So this is nice. So it may not seem like it, but we're coming into a forward bend here. So you just bring the knees towards the chest. And then if you'd like, you could keep the knees going up and over and come into a full forward bend. The knees stay bent. The legs would go on either side of the head. Or you could just, when you get the knees up and the legs back, you could just push the bolster out from under. And then you can, or whatever you're using, obviously. And then you can either rest your legs on your pillow, blanket, or bolster, or you could put the bolstering aside and just let the legs, and we'll just relax here for a bit. Good. So let's come on up from here then, if you will. And let's just open the legs out. So I'm not necessarily recommending, I've been experimenting with this. Often in a straddle, we try to open the legs as wide as possible. And what happens then is these hip flexors, and there's the other ligaments keeping the hips attached to the legs, we've tightened them. So then when we start to bring the body forward, we're bringing the compression, the torso weight into an already tight area, a little contrary to what we're trying to do. So what I'm suggesting is find your range of motion and then back off. You can see my hips relax. So then when I come forward, I'm not weaving the weight, the compression into the tension. I'm allowing then relaxation, then the body can soften. So whatever depth you're coming to, use whatever you need. So pillows, blankets, so you can control some of this upper body weight. We don't want it to be so intense that, again, we're distracted or feel unsafe. If you're able to come to the forearms, fine, or lower, that's up to your body, really. Not really, up to you. So relax on something. You have the bolster. If you do have the bolster, you can use it this way, which this is more sort of if you're going to stay at one depth the entire time and you know that it's nice and supportive in the core, or if you feel like you're going to your body's going to invite you to go deeper, sometimes we put it this way, and then you can just allow it to stretch out, and then you come down into it. Oh yeah, yes. And so something that is very valuable to explore and just to really contemplate. So when we do start to open and really start to viscerally experience the tension as energy, when the body starts to get that, it's not an intellectual endeavor, it's more of a physical one. When we stop labeling good or bad, I need to fix, I need to move away from, when we do start to feel the nature of our physicality as energy, something very important to know is that energy is intelligence. So at the very deepest level of this body-mind complex, there's information. And what's so incredibly beautiful, this is something that has been primary to what yogis study, is that at the quantum scientists discover the same thing. And they go in and in and in and smaller and smaller and smaller till there's only rhythm, there's only energy, but it's intelligent. So this is the prime directive of our hatha yoga, or really any yoga, is awakening the intelligence of the body and the heart and the mind, and letting this energy flow freely, letting the prana have as many open pathways as possible. The flexibility, the range of motion, it is secondary. It will happen over time. Good. So let us come up from here. We're just going to do a bit of a variation. This is sort of the forward companion to that deeper backward bend. But just allow yourself to come on up. And let's bring the right leg in front of you, relatively speaking. And what I mean by relative is avoid the tendency to hold the leg active like this. So my foot is activated, my quadricep is holding my leg. Different kind of yoga. We want it to relax. Again, so the weight doesn't come into tightness, it comes into an open area of the body. So whatever that means for your hip, just let the right leg relax. And then take the left leg and bring it somewhere on the inside of this leg. Again, you don't have to tighten it up if you've been doing this in another class or you think this is how it should be, way up into the groin. You can bring it down to the knee, again, so the hip and the knee are relaxed. And then the same forward bend, as soft as possible. Bring your equipment over. Rest on this if you need to, and just let the lower back and the lower belly soften. So we've just added, again, just some different angles. And just continue to notice with no judgment whatsoever what is in the foreground. Is it chatter and is it clutter? If it is, this is the function of authentic relaxation. So as we relax into the body, we're also relaxing from that noise. Really, everything is so noisy. That's the clutter. That's the habits and the patterns of the psyche. So the relaxation allows us to drift a little bit deeper, to drift into quiet, into calm, and simply explore from this perspective. This is a This is why the real study of yoga is not linear. It's not symmetrical. It's just whatever you happen to be open to. Good, so let's come on up from here. And we'll just simply switch legs. So we'll allow the left leg to open. And again, let it find its own way, really. So it's nice and relaxed. And you can even, if you know, sometimes it's nice to even bring it out a bit on an angle. So it's again, it's really listening to the suggestion, and then how does your body fit into that suggestion? It's not about following an alignment, because all of our skeletons have just wide variation. So you're working with your skeleton and the way that your body's holding tension. And the same thing, just slow, careful, really feeling every little thread, every residue of contraction just sink in. And this is precisely what a yogi cultivates. We don't even have to call it yoga. What a yogi cultivates is how to relax and be quiet and calm through all the noise. A yogi doesn't need the external environment to be calm and quiet in order to be calm and quiet. A yogi trains, a yogi breathes, a yogi contemplates that the noise of the world, the strife of the world, is the foreground. This is the clutter of the world, the noise of the world. It's always going to be there. So our contemplation is how to find that inner quiet, how to allow the foreground to defocus, find a place of inner balance, a place of equanimity. Then we're free to do whatever we like. Then we're responding to our thoughts. We're responding to the world. We're not reacting. And even if we just get a little bit of space, that's the doorway. We can slow down the reaction and cultivate the response. This is where we can be extremely creative. Good, so let's come on up from here, please. So we're going to come into our final Shavasana, but like I said earlier, please take care of yourself. If you need to go back into an asana. Or if you need to leave, it's perfectly okay. I just want you to feel comfortable. But if you're open to it and you're ready, we'll just take a shavasana and just make yourself comfortable. You could go back to that initial positioning. Sometimes it's nice to pad the pelvis, if you like. We had the feet slightly elevated, and we had just a bit of a roll under the cervical spine. So it's nice sometimes, if the pelvis is on something hard in the tailbone, it's nice to just have some softness. Same thing for the, once you find that sweet spot with the upper spine where it's supported, it can really start to, even just in shavasana, it can start to drain and release the residue of tension in the upper neck and shoulders. And the same thing for bringing the legs up a bit so the hips can just relax. But whatever is your preferred way to relax, we'll just take some time here. Without thought, without mind, without self, there's only freedom. The most direct way of coming to this is to be wholly absorbed in the breath. So, very gently, very nuanced, just begin to come back to that absorption of breath. It is everywhere. Allow your awareness to gently drift into your sensations. And then just let your body have any slow, intuitive movement that you would like. Of course, if you prefer to stay in Shavasana, please do that. If you'd like to join me in closing, then just gently roll over onto your left side and bring your knees up for a moment. And then let us find our way back to a comfortable seated position, and we will close our meditation. I do not know who or what I am. I wander about, concealed and wrapped in thought. Namaste.